I just found out that
This
there's
meeting
a
is being recorded.
service outage in my area because of the weather, but the weather's fine outside. It's just cold. So I guess things
Oh,
don't work in the cold here in Austin anymore. They've decided they can't work. All right, let's get back to, can you guys see the screen? I don't know if I'm sharing the screen or not. Share screen. No, I'm not. So share the screen. There we are. Is this screen? Yes, there we go. All right. You'll never guess what the target is. It's that girl again. Um, one of you may be asking, what is the benefit in being able to remote view and see this target? Well, this is just the beginning stages. You can use remote viewing for much, much more and access to the truth about anything. We just haven't gotten into those types of targets yet because you need to get better at doing these picture targets with immediate feedback before you can get better at doing esoteric targets with less feedback, like the 9/11 sessions I sent you earlier. Let's see. I wanted to talk more about the ideogram, and I wanted to do some ideogram practice. But first, I will show you some of my ideograms that I have done here under this. This is from a session of mine done in 2016. I could add more, but this is why it doesn't have a flash sketch. This, I wrote down the TRN, 11E, AN11, and then I did this looping thing as an ideogram. Then over here to the right, I wrote A colon, curving down, looping over, looping inside, down across. And then I went back and I touched it with my pen and it felt squishy. So I wrote B, biological and land. Why biological? Because to me, there were loops in it. So I decoded that it had to be biological. And whenever I have a flat surface, I call that land when I'm decoding it. And then I did it again. It was similar to the last one, but not the same. So I wrote that it was curving down, looping, but I skipped my B that time. And then I did it again, and it's still similarly loopy. I don't know why it's that loopy, but biological, and I called it biological because there were circles in it. And then that's the rest of that. Let's see more examples. 0300 T497. I did like a quick ideogram that had a lot of movement. So I called it curving across, looping over, angling down, curving, bubbling up, down across, and then I went back and touched it with my pen again and described it as squishy and hard. How did it have that feeling? It just felt like when I put my pen on that ideogram, you can see the two little dots there. That's why I touched it. It felt squishy and hard. And I don't know why. I didn't try and think about why. I just wrote down my perception. Then my deduction based on what it looks like is life form, energy, and man-made. And I don't know why I chose that, but I did. And then I did the TRN again, and then A, describe it, touching it under A. My dash just indicates that I touched it. And then B is life form and mechanical. Let's see if I can, just talking there. And I wrote it a third time and I did another ideogram and described it A and B. And so this is what your template will look like when I give you the stage 1 and stage 2 template. And over here, I've got car in parentheses and sharp edges. Those are my deductions. And we'll get to deductions in just a moment, but you can see there that that's what I did. Why I did that. I wanted to make sure that I recorded my deduction, but not let it override the session. This is our ideogram drill sheet. So I'm going to send you one of these each time, and we're just going to go through this. Probably for a blank page, I'm going to count the number of lines I want you to draw, and we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's a lot of lines. Okay, we're just going to do 12 lines on the, so one across, like make 2 columns and a line for each column. and like that, but I'm not going to tell you what the words are. I'm going to read the words aloud to you, and for each of those, like write 12 lines and then move to column 2 and write 12 lines. Does that make sense? Does that not make sense? I guess is the question I should ask. So those of you that do not understand, you can respond. But if there's no response, then I assume everything is clear. If you don't understand, please ask. So I'm going to say a word, and I want you to, without thinking, without thought, just make a really quick ideogram blurb on that line and don't think about it, but then move to the next one. Is there anyone that does not have, there were 12 lines followed by 12 lines made on a blank sheet of paper yet?
Oh, I don't.
All right, get cracking. So this is just to figure out what your ideogram language looks like. Everyone's is going to be unique. Everyone's going to be.
Ronan, should we number these, or is that
Nah,
necessary? Okay.
Should we what?
nah.
Like, I was asking if we should number them, but it sounds like that's not necessary.
Oh,
Well, number is, it's too left brain, and it sort of takes you away from like the swoopiness, the flowness of it. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. He counted slowly. Yeah, just 12 lines, the next column, then 12 lines. And so just without thinking, without thought, I'm going to give you 2 or 3 seconds, maybe a second to get through. And I want you to make an ideogram and then move down to the next one, make an ideogram, move down to the next one, and I'll tell you when to move to the next column. So don't go across, go all the way down, and then back up to the top and all the way down. Let's begin. I'll say a word, you make an ideogram without thinking, just whatever comes to mind, like that, like super quick. All right, the first word is natural. The second word is hill. The third word is mountain. Woman. Object. Car. Life form. Man-made. Weapon. Mausoleum. Space. Explosion. Gas. And moving up to the next column, up at the top, land, umbrella, statues, airplane, city, gorilla, space, ocean, plasma, computer, lake, and air. And if you have one more, it's energetic. I can't count to 12. It's too hard. So this is your own first approach to your ideogram language and how you are perceiving these words. Everyone's going to be unique, but there's going to be kind of a commonality between them. They're broken up between biologicals, persons, places, things. So you can start to get an idea of what your ideogram language is. And it's not important to know what your ideogram language is. Like, you can go back and compare them to what you have done before, but just doing the process is important enough, and it will ingrain within you the ability for you to decode when you get to your B of stage 1. I can share the screen again so you can see and write down what the answers are if you like. Hopefully I'm recording this, because I tend to forget to do that every single time. But you might notice some commonality in some of them. So if you look across, there is, where are the ones that are common down? So if I were to do these, natural would be like almost like that. Hill might be that. Mountain might be the same thing. Woman might be a circle. Object might be an angle. A car might be an angle, or I might have tried to draw a car. Life form would be a circle. Man-made might be this. A weapon might be like this. A mausoleum is, any building could be represented by a rectangle. Space is a series of dots to me, but it might be different for you. Explosion sort of has like some movement or kinetic energy to it. And then gas might have some like, curls associated with it. Land for me is always straight, but it might be different for you. And you're supposed to do these really quickly and move through and like just spend less than 2 seconds on them. So I'll give you ideogram drill worksheets to print up each weekend that you can print up and just go through to give yourself more experience and association with these. Umbrella, statues, since it's plural, you might have lots of right angles. You might have tried to draw a plane or something in the air. A city is often represented by multiple rectangles for people, and a circle is a biological or a person. So you can't really decode if it's a biological or a person or anything living. So you might just have a circle there. Ocean is usually represented by some type of, that should be a wavy line. Sorry, it's not. Plasma usually have like curls again. A computer, and then lake is usually water or wavy lines. But your ideogram language will be unique. And each week you can print these up and practice them to see what the language is that you get. Will they always look the same for each ideogram? They'll look similar, but not the same. They should look common to your unique ideogram language in your unconscious, but this is you kind of probing your unconscious to get access to what you believe the ideogram represents. So when you get to your B part, you can say, well, it's a life form, energy, and man-made, or it's a structure. There are 2 biologicals there. I wrote B1, B2, structure and land for that one. It'll get you into your B so you can decode it properly when you go through your A and B process in stage 1. Are there any questions on that? Great. So you'll get ideogram drill worksheets to print up and do, and just like move through it literally within like 45 seconds. That's as long as it will take you to do. Let's see, slideshow again. Let's see, moving on. Ideogram examples. I showed you both examples. What we are doing is the IAB process. The A describes the ideogram movement, and you can put another colon under that to touch it. The acceptable things when you touch it are hard, soft, semi-hard, semi-soft, and slippery or squishy. It may feel hard to you when you touch your pen to the page because, you think about it, you're just touching the piece of paper that you're writing on, and that's going to be hard, but you can write hard then. But if it sometimes happens that ideogram feels different than hard, record that. And it's just another way for your left brain and right brain to engage with that stage 1 process. TRN flash sketch, target reference number, ideogram plus A, the target reference number, ideogram plus A, plus how does it feel? The target reference number plus eogram or leogram, looks like missing a D, plus A, plus how does it feel, plus B, which is the decoding of it. So that's taken a couple minutes. We've all through stage 1. Is everybody ready to move on to stage 2? Wonderful. Stage 2. Let's see what that looks like. I sent you this is what the template looks like for you for stage 1 and stage 2. So the homework that you'll get, there'll probably be a couple of targets for you to do for homework. You'll write the target reference number here. And if you don't have a printer, you don't need to write the lines. You don't need to write the slash. You don't need to write the lines. You don't need to write 45-degree head tilt. You'll just write the TRN and then A and then decode it and B. So you don't need all this stuff. Just write what you would normally write if you were using this template. That's let's see. So there. And then you're done with page 1. In page 2, what we are doing is we're moving through our 5 senses to figure out what's at the target site. So we're going through textures, colors, smells, tastes, temperatures, sounds, and dimensions. I have given you a word descriptor list, which I reprint and remake and slave after every single time that we teach this class. It's a randomized list of colors in no particular order and randomized. And the goal is to, let's see if I can just share my screen here. So the goal, if you look in your email, you'll see the stage 2 word descriptor list. Let me see if I have it here. I probably don't have it. Classroom. Oh, that's why. All right. Does anyone see the stage 2? Let's see if I can find it. Word descriptor list, and I'll give you an example of how it's used. Word. How do you spell word? There we are. This is the stage 2 TAP word descriptor list for 2023. The goal for this is to not like always refer to it, but just keep it to the side of your remote viewing. And I say, if you're right-handed, keep it on your right hand. And if you're left-handed, keep it on the left-hand side of the page. But you're just going to like scan this as you get to textures and pick out the first 2 that come to mind that catch your eye and say, oh, I saw malleable caught my eye. So I'll write that down, but I'm not going to think about it. I'm just going to write malleable. And you might scan it again. And the first word that catches your eye is abrasive. So you're like, okay, I'm going to write down abrasive. I think you're all viewers of this and not editors of this. If you are an editor, don't edit it. You just use it. But you can print this up and keep it as like a cheat, because you're not always going to know what words are textures. You're not always going to know what words are smells or what you're smelling or what you're tasting. So it's kind of just a quick cheat sheet to get information in stage 2 for you until you get better at identifying it. And there's lots of words for dimensions. There's lots of words for emotions, but we'll get to that as we move through the, just keep it, scan it, whatever word pops up. Great. Go back to summertime. There we are. We've done that. We've done this. So in stage 2, there are 2 parts of it. There's the going through. Let's see if I can share my face so you can see what I'm talking about. As we're moving down that word descriptor list, I want you to imagine you're going down your body and going through those senses. So we start with what we're kind of perceiving first. I think the first one is textures. And then the next thing you get is colors, because that comes to your eyes. And then your next one is your nose. So that's like, imagine a J going down your body, and that's what you were looking for with moving through the senses. In controlled remote viewing, they don't have like a format for it. They just say whatever comes through, comes through. You can write the same word more than once in your word descriptor list if you're going down through it, but we're moving through our 5 senses, writing down 3 to 5 perceptive words per sense. So 3 to 5 per color, 2 to 3 per nose, per smell, 2 to 3 per taste. And then our temperature, the reason you wear a scarf is because your throat is cold. So that's how we can gauge the temperature through our throat chakra. And then what is the next one after temperature? Oh, we're going up. So it's sounds. So we're making that J. So sounds is next. And sounds, you might sometimes hear a sound, or you might perceive a sound. And you might get to the point where it's hard to get smells or it's hard to get taste for you, but that's why the cheat sheet is there. That's why you can pull a word from that list and then move on. I also sent you what is a description of what analytical overlays are. So you can read that sheet on your own and understand what AOLs are. So as we're moving through this list, you're going to get words that are like not the sound, or it's going to remind you of a memory or an event. your logical brain is going to come through and say, hey, I have an idea. And you say, thank you, logical brain. I appreciate your input, but we don't need that right now. So I'll put car over here on the right because it came up with the idea of car. And I'm going to surround it with parentheses. That's me telling my left brain, great, that's good, but we're going to put a little buffer, a little cushion around that analytical overlay that we gave you. And you can read through the AOL list that I sent you. The types of AOLs aren't really important. It's just for you to get a better idea of why AOLs come through. And if you haven't gotten a chance to take a look at that, please at some point take a look at that. And see there, I'm so blue there. All right. But we're moving through all of our 5 senses and going to get to that dimension word. So after we get the sounds out of our ear, then imagine like your hands are going out. You're trying to perceive what are the dimensions of the target or the things at the target site. So if we go back to the picture of the girl walking down the path, you might feel like enclosed, rectangular, angular, but you might get a building. Well, a building doesn't fit in your 5 senses. That would be an AOL. You've deduced that and deducted that. So we would write that in parentheses on the right-hand side of the page because we're only trying to record our perceptive data and those things which we would smell, taste, sense, feel with our perceptions. But our goal is to write dimension words until we feel an emotion about the target site and we're connecting to the site through our heart feeling or our emotion. So I gave you a lot of emotion words. You can write until you get an emotion, or you can cheat and look and see which emotion word pops out or which emotion word looks more vibrant to you in that word descriptor list. Any questions so far with that diatribe? Close that. Let's take a look at the template for stage 1 and stage 2. We are going through doing our stage 1, and then under stage 2, we're recording. I think this is right. I'll have to double check. I don't have A there anymore. So this is an older template, but it's just textures, colors, smells, tastes, temperatures, and then sounds, dimensions, and your emotion. So I'm not using A and B anymore because it's confusing. I just decided to use all of the things there. What is agog? Yes, me, oftentimes. You're shocked at something. It's like you're taken aback by it. And some of the words you might think you would never feel that ever. And that's okay too. Let's take a look back at my example of a session, and it doesn't need to be 175%. It can be like 75%. Seems like it would be maybe 100% would be better there. So this is the first page that I'm doing. Then as I get to my page 2, I'm going through and I'm prompting myself by writing textures, but on your template, it has textures written down for you. But I just write S2 at the top in the middle, underline it. I write page 2 at the top right. And then I'm moving through and trying to find out what textures do I sense are at the site. And it's just whatever first comes to me. So these perceptions come through every 2 to 3 seconds for me, like slick, slippery, mushy, oily. And that's enough. I only want to get 3 to 5, maybe 2 to 3 initially senses for each one. Then I move down to colors, and this is where you might get AOL coming through. So when you think of a color, it might elicit a memory within you, or it might remind you of something. It might make you deduce and think of something else. And so over on the right, you'll always write in parentheses the word that you thought of, that AOL word. And if it's persistent, then you can write it down again. Some of the best remote viewers continue the same AOL that keeps coming back in their session. But as long as they write it down, it doesn't override their session and take them into a new, like, non-data collection. Where are we at there? So I don't know if anyone can you guys see this? I don't know if it's too small or not, but Smells, fresh and pungent. Sometimes the smells might seem like opposites or at odds. That's okay. It's just your unconscious mind trying to figure out, what am I perceiving at that site? And so you're using non-local senses. We always use our physical senses, but some of you may be good at doing this. Some of you may have trouble with it. You might feel like you're forcing the sense or the smell or the taste. And that's why I printed the word descriptor list for you to scan and just write down whatever comes through to you, whatever is most bold, whatever pops out. Don't judge it, just write it down and then move on. The temperatures, I just write temps and then I draw a dash: hot, humid, moist, humid, and damp. So humid came back twice, so I guess the site is humid. Sounds, I got voices, whirring, distant, hissing, and tinkling. And then somehow it reminded me of tongue and groove. So over on the right, I wrote AOL break, which is from controlled remote viewing military language. This session was done in 2016, so it's the old CRV format. But if I were to do that now, I would write tongue and groove, and then I would put parentheses around it on the right-hand side so that it's corralled and like a little hug for my tongue and groove over there. Dimensions: under, tubular, open, scattered, diagonally, interlaced, round, rectangular, embossed, heavy. And I got an AOL of encoded. I don't know, encoded could be debated that it's a dimension word, but I wrote it down over there. So I would write, I would hug it now with little parenthesis blocks. And then I got down to my emotion, and my emotion was depressed. Now I write it as emotion, EM, for us in TAP. I don't know why it made me feel depressed, but I moved on. And so that's our stage 2. And I say the stage 2 should take you like 3 to 5 minutes to complete. If it's taking you any longer, then you're lingering and those words aren't coming through as quickly as I would like them to come through. But this whole page should take you, 3 to 5 minutes to gauge. If you get to sounds and you don't hear anything, you can write a dash instead of writing words. If there's like no sound, nothing comes through, a dash is acceptable. But you should try and keep writing dimension words until a feeling comes through. And then I always timestamp the bottom of every page. So once we get to here, that would be it. We would be done with the session. So you could write end session, SESSION, and the time. And here the time happened to be 11:52. And that would be it. The first page will probably take you 2 to 3 minutes. This page would take you 2 to 3 minutes. So the entire stage 1 and stage 2, 5 to 7 minutes to complete. Anything a lot longer, you're lingering in Imaginationville. Imagination will come through, but it's important to recognize it and put it on the right-hand side as an analytical overlay. And let's get back to this over here. No.
Ronan, this is Jody. I was
Hi.
just asked. I just wanted to. I really like that you clarified how much time we should expect, or we want to spend on these, because I feel like there are those of us who have the personalities where we feel like we have to just dig in and could spend like
6 minutes. That's it. Right.
But tell me, what about more like a professional level remote viewer, if you're going more into depth and detail? About how much time are we talking?
For stage 1 and stage 2?
Yeah.
90 seconds.
For stage 1 is 90 seconds. Okay, so actually even faster. And then so the difference when you do, if you were trying to find someone who's lost or a missing person or something like that, then the difference is just the stages, or?
Yeah, so I want them, professional remote viewers usually spend more time in their stage 3, stage 4, stage 6. The stage 6 is like you're rendering the target and doing mapping and gridding. And sometimes that can take 30 minutes on its own. So remote viewers, some of them will just say, okay, What?
Baby.
What?
I think somebody was not, I think somebody didn't realize they were not muted.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so let's see. Let's go back to the template, and I'll share with you like a professional remote viewer that's going through it. They would do a, where's my share? Okay, this one. So for this page, you know, it doesn't take you that long. It takes you 2 minutes, but a professional remote viewer would probably do, they would do a quick flash sketch over here for 15 seconds, and then they would do just one target reference number, one A and one B, and then they would move on to the next. So that I want you guys to get better at doing your A and B. It's important to have a good foundation of the doing the target, but this page will take you 2 minutes. The next page might take you 3 minutes. So don't be inundated to think, oh, I got to sit down and do all this session. That's the worst thing you could do, because then you'll never start. You know, just go ahead and start it and you'll be fine. And then the remote viewers, oh, where's clear? Then they don't go through the template that I go through. So I think it's important to prompt you for textures, colors, smells, taste, temperatures. Those remote viewers will just start in the middle of the page and they'll just write words down the page, and they won't go to colors, they won't go to smells, they won't go to taste. They'll just write down the first words that come to mind. And so that stage 2 might take them 90 seconds. I think they're missing a ton by not prompting themselves to go through each of the steps, because there are nuances and at each of the steps, but they don't have the prompts to do your smells, colors, taste, temperatures, dimensions. They just go straight down the middle, and then they move into their stage 3, a quick 90-second sketch, and then they're in stage 4. So they've gotten to stage 4 in like 3 to 5 minutes. Rachel can't find this template in the classroom. No, this template isn't in the classroom. I'm going to send this one out tomorrow, because I sent out an exercise that's fun to do tonight. And I'll send out this exercise with the stage 1 and stage 2 template. I gave you an opportunity to read about what stage 1 and stage 2 is, and read about what AOLs are. And then I thought, instead of me covering it, because there's a lot to cover, you read it and you come back at me with questions on it. So I did it a little bit opposite day today. But I wanted to get through really stage 1 and 2. I'm always worried that I'm not covering things fast enough and that I'm not covering things like too fast. So this time I thought I would do both. You read it and I'll send you the template tomorrow. This template here, which just has page 1 and page 2. And I'll send you probably like 2 or 3 different cues and targets to do, and just move through this weekend. Like each day, spend like 5 minutes and do a session. And then I'll tell you what the feedback is on Tuesday. So it's not going to take you a ton of time to do them, but do have some time in between these 5-minute sessions that I'm asking you to do, or 4-minute sessions I'm asking you to do. But that was a great question about how long it takes, because people get so worried that, oh, I gotta sit down, I gotta do all this stuff, I gotta wait. But no, it's going to be super quick. It won't take you that long. And like your first burst impressions are always the best. And just writing the AOL, figuring out where to put that AOL. And so, you know, let's go through textures. It would be gristly, grimy, slippery, wet. And so that makes me think of like the water park. So over here, I'd write water park on the right, and I would parenthesize it. Then I'd move down to colors, blue, yellow, blue, gray. Gray reminds me of a beached whale. So over here, I would write beached whale. And the beached whale might come back, but I'm hoping it doesn't come back. But I'm moving into the next perception. So I might still have the beached whale in my head. So the smells might be putrid. It might be, oh, I still remember the beached whale. So it's hard to get a beached whale out of your head, but I might continue to write it and just know that it came through. So I'll tell you about my first AOL. I was in Ed Dame's remote viewing training in 2002 in Portland, Oregon, and I was going through my colors list, and I got red and white, and I thought, oh, that reminds me of candy cane, and I was so excited that I recognized the cross linkage between red and white and candy cane, and I wrote AOL break on the right hand side of the page. But it made me so happy that I identified what my deductive mind had done and gave it a little space on the right hand side. So don't be angry at AOLs because they're always going to come. You'll never get rid of them. I still have frequent AOLs in my sessions. I'm just able to identify why they're coming, how they're coming, and then write them over here, because we're never going to completely get rid of them because we have a bihemispheric brain and it's always doing this dance between. So that's why it comes through. We're all going to get it. Don't be upset by it. I'm so happy that I finished that all the way to stage 2 and stage 1 in one night. That was great. So you guys are way ahead of the military guys. I tell you what. Any questions about what we have covered so far? I know it's a lot. It seems like I went through really, really quickly, but we'll review too at each stage. So Tuesday we'll go over this again, and I'll take a look at the things that you have gone over and the targets that you have done. And I'm very proud of you for sticking to it and coming to class 2. Now you should really be able to decide if this is right for you or if you're ready to throw in the towel. So,
Ronan, how are you looking at our work then? Just when we come back to class and show it to you?
So there are a couple of ways to do it in the Google Classroom. When I send you out an email assignment through the Google Classroom, it'll have the opportunity for you to attach a PDF. So you can do it on a PC, you could do it on a what do you call it? A cell phone. Whatever you want to send it to, or you could just send it as an attachment, or you could add it. You could upload it to your Google Drive and add it as an attachment to the assignment. But whatever way you want to do it, I can make maybe a short video of how to upload it, how to attach it from the student side of the classroom. But the assignments that I send out tonight are just fun exercises to do. They're not remote viewing exercises, but the remote viewing exercises I'll send out tomorrow morning. Any other questions about life in general or the stage 1, stage 2 process?
Is that silence or am I just
I think I blew everybody's heads. No one wants to ask me a question now. Everyone's terrified.
I think it's just a lot. We just have to try to do it, right? Practice, like you said.
But that was a great question about how long it takes. I mean, it doesn't take as long as my explaining it takes. It takes like a 10th of the time as it took me to explain it.
Yeah, and just go for it, whether we do it completely right or wrong, right?
Yes, precisely.
Okay. All right. That's good. Good. Looking forward to it. All
so
right.
Let's hear from someone like, putting you on the spot, Jody, who's been there before and might be able to give some clarity to the people here that feel like they're swimming. Jody. Jody left, unfortunately. She had to go. Let's ask Maria to give us the same answer.
So repeat the question though.
So some people feel like they're, struggling with this process, and there's so much to learn, they'll never get it. And yet you have gone through some of the process before. Talk to them about how you
I think
feel.
you have to, I think you have to be patient with yourself. I think this is an actual exercise within yourself, because it's a new language we're learning. There are new techniques we're all learning, and it's a bit foreign to you. It's exciting when you kind of get something right, but don't let that go to your head, because I think you can't have like I hate to say, you really can't have like an ego in this. So you kind of have to
Yes.
set it aside, and not try to sit there and like figure it out, because that's what our we want to. That's how naturally we want to naturally do that. And you have to allow yourself to sort of detach yourself. I don't know how to. You have to detach yourself, and I don't know how I would. I don't know how you go about doing it, but just without emotion, without your ego, just sort of look at it without any emotion, I guess. But don't be hard on yourself though. At the same time, when you don't get it, I know, because I've been there. Sometimes I look at it like, okay, and then there are times where I think I got it. So that's been my experience. So
Thank you. That's a great.
I like that. Have fun with it too. Yes, have fun with it. Yes.
Yeah, this is Jody. I'm sorry, I was having problems with my computer. I was
Welcome to the
struggling.
club. Yeah.
Yeah, but I will definitely say that, like, I don't know what everybody else is like, but I feel like every day I'm a new person, and not every moment I'm like a new person. And so every time I look at remote viewing, I see something different, and I I think that overall, I would definitely tag on to what Stephanie just said about, like, it's not really about you. It's if you can let that go and just detach. For me, if I get anything at all, I'm just like, it's like, it's mind blowing. Like, honestly, like, if you can get, even if you only get one thing right this entire course, it's still, I'm not going to say it's a miracle, but it goes against all of the things that, this kind of linear worldview, and it just reinforces that we're all connected, and that I don't want to say the matrix or whatever, but it gets us closer to understanding who we are. And I don't mean to get too philosophical, but I think really it's the process and the structure of the remote viewing, and just being able to lean into that, just be like, if you get something wrong, it doesn't say anything about you. And a lot of times when I get things wrong, I'll see it in the next target, or I'll see some little, like, something that my mind would find more interesting than the major, like the major theme of the picture or the video. Like, just the fact that I think something else off to the side is more interesting. Sometimes that's what I'll get. So it's just, I think you learn about yourself. I don't know.
No, that's great too. Thank you. And I know you've taken it before, so I appreciate that insight to it. And everybody's always beating themselves up to say, "Oh, I didn't get it right this time." Well, I still don't get it right every time, and I don't beat myself up. But like Maria said, that's ego getting in the way of you thinking I'm going to hit it every single time. And ego has a great way of knocking you down a peg to make you go with the process. When you start remote viewing, you get really good hits when you start. So you guys haven't done a full session yet, but we'll get to a full session, sometime by mid next week, and maybe the next week in like week 3. But this is just the first stage. So don't knock yourself down by thinking, I don't get it. It's not hitting. I'm not getting the perfect picture every time. I'm not seeing this picture in my mind's eye. That's not remote viewing. You're not going to see the picture in your mind's eye. You're going to work around the picture and get more parts of it and then put the pieces together at the end. No, go ahead, Stephanie. You can ask now.
Okay, so I'm kind of circling back to the first exercise we did. And the picture ended up being the trees with the birds flying, like with the river kind of going through the trees. When we did that exercise, when I closed my eyes, I saw like the peaks and I saw like movement, like white movement in the center. But my brain automatically transferred when I was viewing these images. I was like, oh, that looks like a peak of a house. I was like, oh, well, these white things that are moving through the middle of the screen, they remind me of cars. And then I sensed that I was like in a city. And then when you showed the picture, and the trees obviously had those peaks that I saw. The birds were obviously white and they were obviously moving through the center. So those were the cars that I saw. So how do we, I guess I don't really know how to ask the question, but I mean, I was wrong in my interpretation, but I was correct in what I saw. So how do we get around that, I guess, is kind of what I'm trying to say.
Welcome to the world of remote viewing.
You know, I mean, if I'm seeing the target, but I'm interpreting it wrong, then I mean, that's kind of embarrassing and defeats the purpose of doing this. I mean, I would
No,
think so.
your left brain will always try and interpret the target. Your left brain will always try and make a deduction. You have to understand, hey, thanks for that deduction. I'm going to continue collecting the data from my right brain now, but I'm going to appreciate it and say thank you. So you're getting a lot into, you're making the jump, the logical leap, and go ahead and reread the AOL thing that I sent out this afternoon.
Yeah.
So you can understand the different types and the different stages and phases of that AOL, because it comes in 100 different ways, and I only gave you like the top 10. But AOL is always going to come and try and tell you the answer before you know what the answer is. So I'm giving you the feedback of, and that wasn't even a real session. That was just image streaming. So image streaming is different than the real process of a full remote viewing session. Like, so even when I finished the 45 minutes of the 9/11 sessions, I didn't know that I had remote viewed the Twin Towers. I didn't know that I had remote viewed the World Trade Center 7 until Courtney Brown said, hey, here's what the cue was. And I was like, really? Well, then, and I went back and I looked at them like, oh, okay.
Wow,
So
that's
that
pretty cool.
was that. And that was, okay, now I see. But I had the elements of it. I just didn't put it together with my left brain until I got the envelope at the end that says, here's what it is. You're never going to get that reward within the session. You're never going to see, oh, I know exactly that I'm remote viewing the whatever it was I was remote viewing there, but you're not going to know that when you're remote viewing it. You only know when you see the cue is.
And the cues don't come until later. So like in your case with the 9/11 thing, you got the targets, you zoned in, and then however long later, weeks, months, days, whatever later, that's when you knew what the actual target was or the cue.
Right. Yes.
Wow.
I
Okay.
didn't know until the whole project got like recorded and came out online. Courtney didn't write me back. So
That's crazy. Okay, cool. Thank you.
but even then I was like, oh, so I could send you a link to like my full sessions on it. I just gave you like the overview that I gave to everyone that doesn't know remote viewing sessions, but I could send you the whole like stage 1, 2, 3, and 4 once you guys understand what you're looking at in those 4 stages of it. But like the whole thing took 45 minutes to maybe 60 minutes for each session. And so in stage 4, I got a lot more data, and I also got AOLs in stage 4, but I knew which was AOL and how to write it down.
Cool. All right. Thank you.
Judith, do you have any questions? I think that's Judith, a Zoom user, but I don't know. All right. So tonight there'll be an email with homework, which are fun exercises to do that are not remote viewing related, but fun exercises to do. They focus on frequency and getting to know your unconscious language. I'm also going to send you tomorrow the ideogram drill worksheet and just spend like 30 seconds doing that, and maybe 3 target reference numbers that are attached to a cue or something fun. And you can do, that'll take 5 minutes to do a session on it. But if you don't get it right the first time, that's perfectly acceptable, because literally the military trained for 6 months So, you know, we're moving very quickly through the process, but you're not going to get 100% hit 100% of the time. I still don't even. We have 5 minutes left, so I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Thank you, Ronan.
Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Rachel, how are things going down in paradise?
Very good. I'm just kind of absorbing all the information that you've given me, and I can see how when we first started the session, we did the flash sketch, and that particular exercise was really frustrating to me because I was thinking, I don't know, I don't see anything, like I don't understand. And then I kind of turned off the thought of I need to see something, I should be seeing something, and I put it down to perception.
Right.
So I started to allow what would come out. And I keep looking back at the you said the flash sketch, and I basically did a doodle. So I kind of did an what do you call it? Ideogram?
Yes.
And when I look at this and I look at the picture, I'm like, wow, it really makes sense. And I was really like, I could see that for me, it's really about perception. It's not about trying to find an image in the brain. And that's the AOL, the analytical overlay. Like I'm searching for something in my mind, my left brain is like, show me something. But actually it's not about that. It's about perception, feeling in the body, and then allowing that to just flow and come out rather than searching for an image. That's what I'm getting.
Yeah, I'll tell you what my cousin told me last night. I met her. She's passed away, but she's a great artist. Her name is Myung Kim, and I met her in a dream last night. And I remembered it when I woke up, but she'd moved into a house that was a model house in the neighborhood. And we were talking about her art. And she said, what you have to remember is that art is more about perspective because we live in not only 3D, but 4D and 5D. So the pictures that you're showing to people are 2D and they're missing 3 dimensions of it. And I was like so blown away that she'd moved into the neighborhood that I really didn't even think about what she told me. But hearing you speak about the perspective, it brought that conversation back to me. So when I'm showing you what the target is, you have to remember that I'm showing you a 2-dimensional picture on a screen of a photograph that happened however long ago. And you're moving your entire conscious mind and unconscious mind to that particular event. And you might be seeing it from above, you might be seeing it from the side, you might be seeing it from a different perspective than we have that photo. So even if you're not getting like the photo perspective of the photo that I show you, you're getting an element of it from a different perspective or a different vertical looking at it. And I think that's what she was trying to tell me last night in that dream.
Yeah, I really resonate with that because I feel like I get it from an energetical perspective. So I get it from a feeling perspective. I get it from bodily sensations it's less. And the thing is, I keep thinking that I'm supposed to see an image, but really most of the time I don't receive images. I receive sensations or feelings. And the doodling is fantastic because that's about putting onto paper the sensation or the feeling, and it's great. I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
And as an artist myself.
Oh wow.
As an artist myself, I'm really glad you gave me that information about your cousin coming through, because I now understand how to link those two together, because the problem I've been receiving or having with art is that my analytical brain is saying you need to create something and it has to be like this. But what you've told me now is that I can now put that aside and put it in a bracket and say that's an AOL, because that's great too. You've helped me to corral that feeling and go, okay, now I can put it down and I can focus on what is coming through without the AOL. And if I notice an AOL, I can go, okay, that's an AOL, put it aside, put it in that basket, and you can come back to it later. It might mean something, it might not, it doesn't matter. But
Right.
it's just recognizing that, putting it aside, and then coming back to what you feel and what comes up for you sensation wise, or whichever way the person perceives and picks up things.
Yeah. And the perception is the most important part, because we live in such an Instagram world that everybody thinks I need to see that picture. And I don't want you to see the picture. Remote viewing is such a misnomer, because we think that we're going to view a picture or an event or a place. We're going to be there. We're going to be put there in like 3-dimensional hologrammatic form. And we're not. We're perceiving it. And perceiving an event is so much more nuanced and different than looking at a picture of an event or being in a picture of an event.
Yeah, I really understood the difference now, especially when we did the first one, which was the birds and the mountains. I got nothing there, and I was like, I don't know what's coming through. I didn't get anything. And the next one, then I started to realize what I'm perceiving is feelings of corners or feelings of shapes, or like the density of materials. I don't know how to explain it, but that's kind of what comes through. And then just letting, that's where the doodling or the ideograms come through, is allowing yourself to kind of doodle and see what comes through. It might be the energetical feeling, it might be actual pictures, maybe eventually it might become pictures once you recognize how to perceive things from many different perspectives, energetical perspectives, or ways that you receive information. But I think then once you know what you're good at, or you know what your strengths are, then you just continue to play on that.
Yeah. So
And build
my
on that.
strengths are technology related remote viewing targets, and I can sketch and render those really, really well. But if I get like a person target, I really can't emote with them to see what they're feeling. So I know that's my hiccup, and I don't do well with like doing remote viewing targets on what another person is feeling. I don't jive that way. But if it's a spaceship, I can sketch the internal design and chemical compound of that, because that's the way I'm interested in that. And you're going to be interested in different facets of, the way that it's almost like I'm thinking of a diamond, it
The
has so many different
frequency.
facets. The frequency of it, you're going to pick up on the
Right.
density aspect, the color aspect, the sense aspect, or when we get into stage 3, you physically go to the site and you immerse yourself at the site and feel what's there and what you'd be doing there. So, but we're not trying to sketch the
really
exact picture. We're trying to sketch our feeling of the picture.
Now that makes sense. Like from when we started the course, it was this morning I was feeling like frustrated, like I'm supposed to see something, I don't see shit. And then I was like, okay, you know what, I can't see anything. I've stopped looking for something, and that's when I did the doodle. And then I realized, okay, like I have a strong connection to water somehow. And that's what kind of came up when I look at the sketch. Like there's that flowiness and the aspect, and then there's these triangle points. And even what was interesting, what I noticed later, again, this is analytical overlay. I'm going to say this is analytical overlay. But if you go back to the picture, is there a chance you can go back to that screen
Of which one?
with the points in the water?
No, I can't.
Oh, you can't. Okay. So I even got the panel at the top and the panel at the side, which I thought was really funny. And then the water inside. So there is a perception of it seems like shapes more for me than there is and more the energy of the place or something like that. So now I understand it a bit more, and it feels less rigid to me to try and pick things up. It's more like, okay, don't put an expectation, just try and receive what the energy is or what the feeling is, or, you know, how my hand wants to move.
Right. I couldn't have said that better.
Yeah.
You said it great. That's what I'm trying to convey, which I think is really hard because everybody wants that the great sketch, the great, you know, mushroom cloud picture of what the target
The
is.
picture.
And
The
when
actual picture.
yeah, and when they do that, they're wrong. And yet they you know, they say, "Oh, I was going to throw shade. So let me just do that." So Edward Reardon is a bald-headed person from Crypto Viewing, and he lives here in Austin, Texas. And I used to be with him at the Austin. I'm gonna have to shut off my recording because it's a